What if I told you that the coffee you're drinking, the furniture in your living room, and even the military music you hear in movies all came from an empire that Europe once called the terror of Christendom? This is the untold story of how the Ottoman Empire didn't just conquer lands. It conquered European culture itself. For centuries, Western history books painted the Ottomans as barbaric invaders, the enemy at the gates, the Islamic threat that had to be stopped at all costs. But today, we'll uncover how this Islamic superpower actually became Europe's unlikely architect, shaping everything from its military tactics to its morning routines, from its fashion runways to its political philosophy. The twist? Europe tried desperately to hide this debt, but the evidence is everywhere. Let's start with warfare. In 1453, Sultan Mehmed II brings massive cannons to Constantinople's walls, cannons so large they require hundreds of oxen to move. A city falls in 53 days, and Europe realizes something terrifying. Their medieval castles are obsolete. Here's what they do and teach you: every star-shaped fortress you see in Europe today, from France to Italy to the Netherlands, is a direct response to Ottoman siege technology. The Ottomans literally forced Europe to redesign its entire defensive architecture. But wait, there's more. The Janissaries, history's first professional standing army. While European kings still relied on feudal levies of peasants who'd never held a sword, the Ottomans had full-time soldiers with pensions, uniforms, and advanced training. Within decades, every major European power, Prussia, France, Russia, is scrambling to copy this model. Even the famous Prussian military discipline, studied extensively from Ottoman manuals during the Tulip era of the 1720s. Frederick the Great's reforms weren't Prussian innovation, they were Ottoman adaptation. The Ottoman military school system, established in the 15th century, became the blueprint for European military academies, including West Point, which wasn't founded until 1802. Now let's talk about your morning routine. Picture this: it's 1650. A Venetian merchant returns from Istanbul and brings back these strange dark beans. He opens Europe's first coffee house in Venice, copying exactly what he saw in Ottoman coffee culture: the social atmosphere, the intellectual debates, the furniture arrangement. Within 50 years, coffeehouses explode across Europe: Paris, London, Vienna. But here's the plot twist: these become the birthplaces of the Enlightenment. The French Revolution was literally planned in Parisian cafés modeled after Ottoman coffeehouses. The Ottoman Empire accidentally created the venues for its own rivals' revolutions. The croissant, that most French of pastries, was invented in Vienna to celebrate defeating the Ottomans in 1683. Its crescent shape mocked the Ottoman flag. But even in celebrating victory, Europeans were consuming a pastry whose buttery, layered technique came from Ottoman baklava methods. And fashion? Oh, the irony runs deep here. Louis XIV, the Sun King himself, wore robes inspired by Ottoman kaftans. Turkish turbans became the height of European aristocratic fashion in the 1600s. Ladies at Versailles wore a la Turk styles. European painters depicted themselves in Oriental dress to look sophisticated. Even sound wasn't safe from Ottoman influence. When Mozart wrote Rondo alla Turca, he wasn't being exotic, he was being trendy. Every European military has marching bands with cymbals, bass drums, and those distinctive uniforms with braiding. That's the Ottoman meter tradition, copied instrument by instrument, uniform by uniform. The phrase "the whole 9 yards" possibly comes from Turkish military sashes that were exactly 9 yards long, though linguistic historians debate this. What's undeniable is that over 1,000 Turkish words entered European languages during this period. But the deepest Ottoman fingerprint on Europe isn't what you can see, it's what you can't. The Ottoman millet system allowed Christians, Jews, and Muslims to live under their own religious laws within the same empire. Religious communities governed themselves. For its time, this was revolutionary. When European Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire and Montesquieu wrote about religious tolerance, they were explicitly citing Ottoman practices. The Ottoman Empire became the example, sometimes admitted, often hidden, of how diverse populations could coexist. Here's where it gets fascinating. The Ottomans invented modern diplomacy. The first permanent embassies? Ottoman innovation. The protocols for diplomatic immunity? Ottoman practice. The concept that nations should have representatives in each other's capitals rather than just sending occasional envoys? That's a 15th century Ottoman system that Europe adopted by the 17th century. and modern Balkan politics? The ethnic complexity, the religious diversity, the regional identities, that's 500 years of Ottoman administration still echoing through the present day. Now, here's the most controversial part, and pay attention because this explains everything. While Europe was desperately copying Ottoman military tactics, adopting their coffee culture, imitating their fashion, and studying their political systems, they were simultaneously creating the terrible Turk propaganda. The savage enemy, the Islamic menace. Why this contradiction? Because admitting you're learning from your enemy is hard. But copying them? That's just survival. European artists painted Ottomans as barbaric, while European architects studied Ottoman buildings. European kings called them infidels, while European generals translated Ottoman military manuals. European priests preached against them, while European merchants grew wealthy on Ottoman trade routes. This wasn't hypocrisy, this was the uncomfortable reality of cultural exchange. It doesn't fit into neat narratives of East versus West or Islam versus Christendom. Real history is messier. More interesting. More human. So what does this mean for us today? Next time you see a military parade with those distinctive drum corps and brass cymbals, Ottoman metal bands. When you drink your morning espresso at a café, Ottoman coffeehouse culture. When you visit the star-shaped fortifications around European cities, responses to Ottoman siege warfare. When you admire Vienna's Baroque architecture, it's literally built from stones of Ottoman fortifications. The Ottoman Empire didn't just lose wars, it won the cultural long game. Its influence is so deeply embedded in European civilization that we've forgotten it was ever foreign. And that's the lesson. History isn't about East versus West. It's not about civilizations clashing and remaining pure. It's about how cultures secretly, sometimes reluctantly, always inevitably build each other. The borders we draw on maps are political, but ideas, technologies, cultural practices, they don't need visas. They just spread. So was the Ottoman Empire Europe's destroyer or its unexpected teacher? Maybe it was both. Maybe that's exactly the point. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what surprised you most, the coffee origin story, the military innovations, or that your favorite Mozart piece is basically Turkish fan fiction. If you want more stories of how history isn't what we retaught, in school how the official narrative hides these fascinating cultural connections, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Next week, we re-diving into how the Mughal Empire invented modern economics and why your banking system has Indian fingerprints all over it. Until then, stay curious, and maybe raise your morning coffee to the Ottomans?